All right, so we're diving into something a little different today. You guys requested the deep dive into mastering cold calling.
Cold calling.
But before you click away thinking, sales tactics, hear me out.
Yeah.
We're going deeper, way deeper, uncovering principles that apply to ANY communication, not just sales.
That's right.
And get this, our source material is a guide actually aimed at salespeople. You'd be surprised what gems we're finding.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Even in our digital world, social media and all that, the guide highlights how even big names, Starbucks, Crayola, they still use cold calling principles to connect.
Okay, but is cold calling really still a thing? I mean, with all the targeted ads and online stuff, isn't it kind of outdated?
That's what I thought too, but the guide argues it's not about randomly dialing anymore. It's about strategic communication, targeted. Think of it like even if you're not in sales, you still got to get your message across right.
Oh, for sure. Like pitching an idea at work or even just asking a friend for a favor.
Exactly. So these principles, they apply way broader than you think.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, this is where it gets juicy. The guide dives into some serious psychology, talking about how we judge calls, like instantly, in milliseconds.
Yeah, that snap judgment.
Think about it. You answer the phone, and bam, you just know it's a salesperson.
Yeah.
That feeling, right? Why does that happen?
Well, the guy calls it the adaptive unconscious. Basically, this part of our brain, it's always scanning for threats, opportunities, making split-second decisions based on tiny cues.
Yeah.
Like a survival thing.
So like with the sales call, our brain's picking up on those scripted lines, the pushy tone, and it's like, danger, danger.
Right. It triggers that fight or flight response.
Yeah.
We want to hang up ASAP.
Okay, so how do we get past those defenses? Because sometimes we do need to get someone's attention, even if it feels like a cold call situation.
That's where the guide's natural approach comes in. And it's not about tricking people or anything. It's about communicating in a way that feels real, engaging, like a human.
All right, break it down for me. What does this natural approach actually look like?
It starts with your tone. Think about calls that actually grab your attention. What's different about them? I bet they don't sound tense or super formal, right?
It's true. It's like you can hear the difference. It's a real person, not some robot reading a script.
Exactly. There's a sense of ease, like genuine interest in their voice. It's projecting confidence, knowing your value, but also coming at it with humility.
So not arrogant, not pushy.
No, not at all. It's more about shifting the power dynamic. Instead of barging in with a hard sell, the guide suggests something pretty interesting. Asking for help.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, positioning yourself as someone who wants to understand their needs first.
Huh. Interesting. It's like it takes the pressure off, right? Makes the other person feel more in control.
Precisely. And it opens the door for a real conversation of back and forth.
Now, this might seem obvious, but the guide really hammers home the importance of listening.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how many people, especially in sales, forget to actually listen. They're so focused on their pitch, they miss cues from the other person completely.
So it's not just hearing the words, but actually absorbing what they're saying. Needs, concerns, hesitations, all of it.
Exactly. Active listening lets you tailor your message to that individual, making it way more relevant.
This is great advice for any conversation, not just sales calls.
Absolutely. Whether you're networking, pitching an idea, or even just talking to a friend, truly listening makes a huge difference.
The guide also dives into mindset, which at first I was like, ooh, but then I realized there's serious psychology behind it.
Oh yeah, our beliefs, our attitudes, they massively impact how we behave and how others see us. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how your mood affects your communication?
100%. If I'm feeling stressed or down, it shows in my voice how I interact with people.
Exactly. So if you go into a call thinking this is going to be awful, chances are it will be. But shift that perspective. Believe you have something valuable to offer, that you can actually help this person. That confidence comes through.
So it's about believing in yourself and believing in what you're bringing to the table.
And believing that the person on the other end might actually benefit from what you have to say.
This is making me rethink my whole approach to communication. Okay, let's get tangible. The guide gets into how our voices themselves reveal a lot more than just our words.
It's true. We subconsciously process vocal cues all the time. You can hear stress, insincerity, even if someone's reading a script, all in milliseconds.
So even if we say all the right things, if our voice betrays us, we've already lost.
It's definitely an uphill battle. The key is to sound authentic, confident, and like you're actually engaged.
This is a good reminder for me to pay attention to my own voice. I tend to get all high-pitched when I'm nervous.
We all have our tells. But with practice, you can learn to control those subconscious cues and project the image you want.
So we've covered a lot here, from why cold calling is still relevant to the adaptive unconscious, that natural approach, how crucial listening is, and how our voices can betray us. We've just scratched the surface of this guide. Let's take a moment to let this sink in.
We'll be back in a bit to explore even more strategies for mastering communication.
Okay, so before the break, we were talking about how our voices can give us away, even when we're trying to sound all confident and stuff.
Yeah, those subconscious cues, remember? Our adaptive unconscious is like on it.
Yeah.
Picking up on those inconsistencies between what we say and how we say it.
So how do we hack the system? The guide mentions something that's almost like turning those alarm bells to our advantage.
Think about it. What kind of calls instantly grab your attention? The ones you don't immediately dismiss as just another salesperson.
You mean like calls from the bank? Or like the dreaded tax department? Those ones that make your heart skip a beat before you even know who it is?
Exactly. They have this sense of importance, maybe even urgency. Our brain's like, pay attention, this is important.
Wow, it's crazy how our brains work, so we can use that same psychology to our advantage.
Right. Instead of trying to sound all smooth and salesy, which can trigger those runaway alarms, we aim for a tone that conveys, like, importance and authority.
So it's almost like we're borrowing that authority of those urgent calls we all hate.
Exactly. It shifts the whole feel of the conversation.
That's so clever. It seems counterintuitive, but it makes sense. We're not tricking anyone, but we are using psychology to communicate better.
Right. And this ties into another key point the guide emphasizes: authenticity. Even with this technique, your intent has got to be genuine.
Yeah, people can totally smell it if you're being fake or manipulative. Okay, so say we've gotten past those initial filters, we have their attention. Now what?
Now we move into the actual message. The guide calls it the pitch, but it doesn't have to be salesy, you know.
Right, it could be an idea, a favor, anything really.
Exactly. And even here, authenticity is key. No scripts, no robotic delivery. Have a real conversation, understand their needs, explain how you can help.
And respect their time, right?
Big time. The guide is big on being concise. To the point. No rambling, no hard-selling tactics. Nobody wants to feel trapped in a monologue.
Especially when you're the one who initiated the call.
Right. You're adding value to their day, not taking up their time.
Makes sense. This brings me to something I struggle with. Persistence versus pushiness. How do you stay top of mind without becoming annoying?
That's the golden question. The guide has some really good advice for this.
Lay it on me.
Well, first, recognize that persistence is important. People are busy, they forget. Sometimes they need a little nudge to keep your request on their radar.
But there's that line, right, between a nudge and being a total pest.
Totally. And that's where the soft sell comes in. Finding that sweet spot, checking in regularly, but not bombarding them. Each interaction should add value, whether it's a quick check-in, a relevant article, some helpful insight.
It's more about building a relationship, not just checking boxes.
Exactly. Because those relationships built on trust and respect, that's what leads to long-term success.
You've given me so much to think about. I had no idea there was this much to, like, cold calling.
It challenges our assumptions, right? Makes us think differently about communication as a whole.
It's like a secret code for human interaction.
I like that. And like any code, once you get the principles, you can apply them anywhere.
Okay, so we've got the psychology, the authority trigger, authenticity, that balance of persistence.
And of course, listening, really understanding your audience.
But the guide also talks about the script itself. I thought we were moving away from scripts.
We are. Not advocating for those robotic recitations. But the guide suggests a script as a starting point. A framework to organize your thoughts, craft a compelling message.
So it's more like a guide, not word for word.
Exactly, like a blueprint. You hit the key points, but there's flexibility, personalization.
That makes way more sense. What does a good script even look like?
They actually give a sample script that uses all these principles. Starts with a question to pique their interest, disrupt those filters we talked about.
Like, are you struggling with X problem?
Yep. Something that grabs their attention instantly. Then it introduces the company, the value proposition, all clear and confident.
And I'm guessing ends with a call to action, like a meeting or a follow-up.
You got it. But remember, it's a template. You adapt it to your situation, your industry, your audience.
Right, like a recipe, but you can tweak the ingredients to make it your own.
Perfect analogy. You take the framework and you infuse it with your own personality expertise.
So instead of blindly following, we use it as a springboard to create something authentic and engaging.
Exactly. And deliver it with confidence, sincerity, that genuine desire to connect with the person on the other end.
This is all coming together. I'm seeing how this applies to so many situations, not just cold calling.
That's the beauty of it. Networking, pitching, even difficult conversations. These insights help you communicate better, build stronger relationships.
This has been eye-opening. I'm rethinking my whole communication style. We've covered a ton, but I feel like there's still more to this guide.
You're right, we've got a few more gems to uncover.
Yeah, right. We've got a few more gems to uncover.
Well, I'm ready. What else is in store for us?
Let's dive into that after a quick break to gather our thoughts. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We're back, ready to wrap up this deep dive into cold calling. It's amazing how much we've uncovered from what seemed like such a specific topic.
And it goes way beyond sales, right? It's like we've cracked the code for better communication, period.
Totally. We've talked psychology, tone, mindset, even scripting. But for you, what's the biggest takeaway? The one thing that really sticks out?
It's got to be authenticity. Everything we've discussed, getting past those snap judgments,
Yeah.
building trust, it all comes back to being genuine.
Yeah, it's like people can spot a phony a mile away, especially over the phone. No amount of tricks can fake a real connection.
Absolutely. And that connection starts with believing in yourself and what you bring to the table. If you're not convinced, how can you expect anyone else to be?
Right, like you can't pour from an empty cup. If you don't have that inner confidence, it'll show, no matter what you say.
100%. But when you do have that full cup, confidence, enthusiasm, that real desire to connect, it changes everything. It's not selling anymore. It's sharing something valuable.
That's such a good point. It takes the pressure off, you can relax, be yourself.
And that makes you more persuasive, more engaging, more successful overall, whatever your goal is.
So to wrap things up, let's leave our listeners with something to think about. The guide talks about persistence, but also cautions against being pushy. How do you find that balance? What's your strategy for staying top of mind without being annoying?
For me, it's about being mindful, respectful. Every interaction should add value. A quick check-in, a resource, an insight. You're nurturing a relationship, not just checking boxes.
And it's important to remember, even if someone says no at first, it's not always a no forever. Things change, needs evolve. Sometimes a little persistence at the right time can turn that no into a yes.
That's so true. It's playing the long game, staying on their radar, trusting that when the timing's right, the opportunity will come.
So there you have it, a deep dive into the surprisingly complex world of cold calling with lessons that apply to all kinds of communication.
Hopefully you've picked up some tools and strategies to boost your own communication skills.
Remember, be yourself, believe in your message, and approach every interaction with genuine connection in mind. Until next time, happy communicating.